Hi! Would you like to learn the differences between the commonly confused prepositions with and by? Welcome to Jen's Jyugyou. My name is Jen, and today I'm going to teach you the differences between with and by. First, I'd like you to take a look at these two pairs of sentences. In each pair, can you choose which is the incorrect sentence? In the first set, we have, I study English by watching Jen's Jyugyou, or I study English with watching Jen's Jyugyou. Do you know which one of these sentences is correct and which one is incorrect? The correct sentence is, I study English by watching Jen's Jyugyou. Let's take a look at the second set of sentences. I study English with a textbook, or I study English by a textbook. Do you know which one of these sentences is correct? The answer is with. I study English with a textbook, not by a textbook. So as you can see, choosing whether or not to use by or with can be confusing in English. But by the end of today's lesson, hopefully you'll be able to choose the right one. The words by and with are both prepositions in English. Prepositions are short words which help to join different parts of sentences together. The prepositions by and with can actually be used in several different ways. But in today's lesson, we're going to focus on how to use by versus with connected to the question of how something is done. When we use by in English to talk about how something is done, there are two really common ways that it is used. The first way is after by, you need to use a gerund. A gerund is a verb plus ing. So you're adding ing to the end of a verb after the preposition by to talk about how you do something. For example, she studies English by watching Jen's Jyugyou. Watching is an example of a gerund, the verb plus ing. So she studies English by watching Jen's Jyugyou. He has fun by playing video games. By playing. How do I relax? I relax by drinking tea. How do they stay healthy? They stay healthy by exercising. You can improve your English by practicing. When we use by to talk about how we do something in English, it's also possible to use by plus a noun. However, only with certain nouns that will help you to talk about the method or process that something is done. Method or process is the key category for using nouns. Remember that a noun is a person, place, animal, or thing. Areas where methods are often used with by include things such as transportation or communication or manufacturing. How does she go to school? She goes to school by bus. So after the preposition by, we have the noun bus. Bus is describing the method of transportation that she uses to go to school. She goes to school by bus, or she goes to school by car. She goes to school by taxi. How did we travel on our vacation? We traveled by plane, or we traveled by boat. We traveled by camel in the desert. How did he contact me? He contacted me by phone, or he contacted me by text, SMS, or he contacted me by Facebook Messenger. I informed my students by email, or I informed my students by Skype messages. I informed my students by plus the method of communication. We also use by plus a noun when the noun is connected to the method of manufacturing or processing. For example, here I have two different types of cookies, but how were these cookies made? These cookies were made by machine. They were made in a factory. They were made by machine. But I made these cookies by hand. These cookies were made by hand. We also use by to talk about the method or process of payment, how someone pays. You pay by cash or by credit card, by check, by money order. When we use by plus a noun to talk about the method that something is done, be very careful that you do not add any articles in front of the noun. This means do not add a, an, and the. Also, do not add possessives like my, your, his, her. Don't add these things when you're using by plus a noun to talk about how something is done. Now, let's take a look at the preposition with. When we use with to talk about how something is done, we use with plus a noun. But specifically, that noun is connected to the tool or instrument, item, or object that we are using to make something or to do something. What is the tool, item, object that we use for something? For example, I dry my hair with a hair dryer. Hair dryer is a noun, and it is a type of object, item, tool, instrument that I am using in order to dry my hair. So I dry my hair with a hair dryer. We eat dinner with chopsticks. Again, chopsticks is a noun, and it is an example of an object that we are using to do the action. He watched birds with his binoculars. She washed the dishes with a sponge. She took notes with a pencil. I cut the paper with scissors. In all of those examples, you could see with plus a noun, and that noun was an object or item that was being used in order to do the action. You need to use an article when you use with. So with a hair dryer, for example. However, if the noun is plural or non-countable, then don't add an article because you wouldn't add articles in those situations anyways. Let's take a look at a couple of sentences using the different prepositions and compare them with each other. How did I make the cookies? I made the cookies by hand because this is my method for making the cookies. Or I made the cookies with an oven. I made the cookies with flour and chocolate. So the oven or flour and chocolate, those are examples of nouns, objects or items that I used to create the cookies. How does she study English? She studies English by using a textbook, or she studies English with a textbook. These two sentences have the exact same meaning, but in the first example, she studies English by using a textbook. We have by plus the gerund, the verb plus ing. And in the second example, how does she study English? She studies English with a textbook. Textbook is the noun, and it's an example of an object or item that she is using to do the action. His wife surprised him by baking a cake. His wife surprised him with a cake. In the second example, his wife surprised him with a cake. It doesn't necessarily mean that she is the person who baked the cake. She could have bought the cake from somewhere and given it to her husband, but he's still surprised by the cake. So these two sentences have almost the same meaning. Now, let's talk about how to use by versus with in the passive voice. I have incorrectly heard some people say that in the passive voice, you only use the preposition by. This is not true. When we use the passive voice in English, it is possible to use by or with. We use by in the passive voice to talk about who did the action. So by plus a person. However, if we want to talk about what was used to create the action in the passive voice, then we need to use the preposition with. The passive voice is a little bit more of an advanced grammar point, but basically it works by putting the sentence in reverse. Instead of it being an active sentence, we're not starting with who the subject is. We put the subject near the end of the sentence. So a regular sentence would be, I read this book. In the passive voice, this book was read by me. In that example of what the passive voice is, you heard me use the preposition by plus a person, me, myself. I read the book. The book was read by me. However, even though by may be the most common preposition in the passive voice, it is possible to use with as well. This album was made by my friend in Japan. This album was made with pictures from our vacation to Hawaii. So you can see me using by plus a person. It was made by my friend. And you can hear me use with plus a noun. It was made with pictures from our trip to Hawaii. So today, you have learned the differences between by and with, and how to use both of these prepositions correctly in your English sentences. And now it's time for question of the day. I'm going to ask you 2 questions today. The first question is, how do you study English? The second question is, how do you relax? Let me know the answers to these 2 questions in the comments below using the prepositions by or with. Thank you so much for watching this lesson. If you found it useful, please subscribe to Jen's Jyugyou and give this video a thumbs up. Good luck with your English studies. See you in the next lesson.